about the test. I feel like it's always like that.
Okay, so I had a question on Piazza this morning about assignment 17. The due date I had was screwed up. It's actually due. Well, you've got a bit more time. It's due tonight. What's today, the 3rd? It's due tonight at 11. However, I actually don't cut it off till tomorrow night at 11, Saturday night at 11. So you have basically to the end of the day Saturday to get that done. If you turn it in that window past where it says due, but before I remove this link, it'll allow you to turn it in, but tell you that you're late, and that's not anything I look at. I don't ignore that. I just ignore that late flag, right? Either you turn it in or you don't, basically. So that's due tonight / tomorrow night, depending on how much drinking you got to do tonight. Any questions? Yes?
Is there like an efficient way to change a string into characters like one at a time?
Yeah, an efficient way. So you mean an efficient way to gain access to each individual character of a string?
Yeah, much.
All right, let's go to our daily diatribe, where I was diatribing. Let's see, where might I have had that? Iterating through lists and strings. This would have been Monday of week 12. Let's see if I had any code here. ASCII.cpp. So that's showing you how to iterate through a vector. Right here. All right. Let me zoom in. Here I create a string called name. For the sake of this exercise, I had the user type something in, and then I iterate from I = 0, I is less than the length of the name string, and then that gives me the ith character out of the string. So there's your answer right there. Any other questions? Yes?
You didn't put any restrictions on A17, right? Like there's no restrictions that we have to name code-wise?
That's right. I think there might have been an old thing about using classes or something like that. I hoped that I'd stripped that out. Oops. What is this? There we go. There are no restrictions, except that I would have those two functions, right? I want to be able to call the char to Braille, pass it a character, and I get the Braille character, or call string to Braille, and I get them horizontally oriented. Any other questions? Okay. Yes?
How will you be grading this on? Does it have to be like exactly the same as the output? Like what if there's just something in the space?
Oh, well, if there's something like a space, then that's not a big deal at all. I think the main thing is that your characters are oriented horizontally across the screen when
so
you.
My output pretty much looks exactly like the one that you wanted, but for some reason when I try to make differences.
Is it complain about a space at the end or the lack of a space at the end?
I don't know how some weird.
I'd have to see it. I'd be happy to look at it, but I mean, if it's visually to your eyes, if it looks pretty much the same, then there aren't any issues. It's going to be graded by hand, not through an automated tool.
And then also I noticed that depending on the size of the terminal.
Oh yeah. Definitely, it's very the beauty of the output is definitely affected by your font size and number of columns in the terminal. So, I'm not expecting any. You don't have to interrogate the terminal to find out how many columns and then nicely page it into separate lines, right? I'm not asking anything like that. Although that's a good idea. That'll be assignment 18 for next semester. I'll tell them who to thank. All right, what else? Yeah.
Were we going to talk about Project 6 today?
We are going to talk about Project 6 as soon as the rest of the questions are finished, I'll talk about Project 6, which I guess is coming just about now. As a little postscript to the lab exam, I am very pleased to report that nearly every single one of you cruised through them all. And I'm very pleased to see that. That's what I would expect at this level, although, you know, as an instructor, you're kind of, oh boy, will they really crank through this, or will they have troubles? And it's showing, I mean, you've got the basics down, you know how to crank through an editor and a compiler, right, that whole, so I'm very happy that everyone's very comfortable with that process. All right. And did I mention what I'm using those questions for? So we're doing here's the thing. So nearly every single one of you who took that exam got 100% on it. There are about 20 people who didn't take it. Okay. So this course has 111 in general across all sections, has a very high attrition, somewhere on the order of 25 to 30%. And that exam, I think, shows who that 25 to 30% is. It's basically the people who didn't take it are probably the people who are going to get either drop the course, withdraw, or fail. It's called the DFW rate. So there's it's a huge problem, not just with 111, but with a lot of general courses that are taken by a lot of students. So like physics, I think, one of the early physics courses, one of the early chemistry courses, calculus, right? These are all courses that have high DFW rates. And so it's a huge effort on the administration / faculty side to try and find ways to reduce that. So the intent of that exam that you all did is that starting next semester, some subset of students, or excuse me, all of the students, some subset of questions will be given to them at the very beginning, the first lab of the 4th week. So that material on those problems go through the first 3 weeks of class. And the idea there is for those students who are unable to do any or can only do 1 or 2 of those, then that's kind of an early warning where then prior to the end of the 4th week, we can get face-to-face with them and have a conversation. How can I help? If this isn't going to work out for you, you basically have until Friday to drop, right? Just trying to do early intervention rather than what I have now, which is 20 people who are MIA. And so a question was, well, how many questions do you think those students will be able to do at the beginning of the 4th week? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but let me see how many my students can do. And I'm happy to say you did them all. So it would have been, I guess I would have been a little freaked out if you only got through 4 of them. Then I'd be, oh man, what am I going to do for the week 4 students if you all can only get through 4 of them? So on the one hand, it's very heartening that you all got through all of them. On the other hand, I've got 0 data now on how many I should be giving the week 4 students because you all are too good for me. All right. Yes.
I like that assignment. Did you say you were going to do it in week 4 next semester? Is that lab exam or?
Yeah, specifically to identify those who are struggling and are at high risk of dropping out.
Yeah, in terms of feedback, I feel like that was good because it had a lot of repetition. I feel like what we've got is repetition just by doing a lot throughout the semester.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like in terms of like a math class, a lot of repetition is important, even with really easy problems. I think a lot of teachers take that for granted in terms of like how important that is. It's just easy repetition.
Right.
Because that's how you perform better. It's not through difficult problems. Some math teachers think a difficult problem will, stimulate learning. I think it just puts learning further out of reach. So I think that was a good idea. And yeah.
So your counsel would be to step it up with more of these kind of easy, massive repetition exercises throughout the semester. Don't confine it to some sort of milestone point in the semester.
Yeah, I would say that because just experiencing my own psychology in terms of how I learn, I think that I learn better when I've done a lot of repetition rather than, I mean, you've done a good job of like making that, the concepts, which there are a ton, through every assignment being reinforced. But I think just one of those early in the semester, you get compiling, you get, you know, looking for semicolons, all that basic stuff, and you just do it over and over again. Because when else are you going to have that opportunity? I'm not going to go home and do that by myself.
Right.
If I'm incentivized by points, well, now I'm doing all this great repetition.
Right.
So I think that was a good idea.
Okay, great. Well, that's good feedback. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. I'm going to see Beauty and the Beast tonight. And can you tell me what part are you playing?
An ensemble.
You're an ensemble. Okay. Well, I'll have my eye out for you. All right. Anything else? Okay. Then let's take a look at assignment 6, the final assignment. We have basically 2 weekends to get it done, this coming weekend and into next weekend. Let me look at the due date of that. I have that as 5/11 with the cutoff, before it's due, which isn't good. The morning of 5/12, so let me look at that calendar again. So that's due Saturday night. So project 6 is due Saturday night, 8 days away. Not too difficult, I don't think. So many of you play computer, I guess you'd call them role-playing games. Probably a smaller subset of you play tabletop role-playing games. That's certainly where I cut my teeth because they didn't really have much in the way of computer role-playing games. They did, but if you saw them, well, I'll just leave it at that. They're different then. So for this one, it's this character generator, and you have to ask the user. Well, I guess there are 4 attributes. Every character has 4 attributes. Each character is going to be one of 4 races, and each character is going to be one of 4 skills. Okay. Then there's the process. What you do for each of the 4 attributes: strength, dexterity, logic, willpower. You're going to roll 5 10-sided dice and add 30. And then, of course, the 10-sided die is just a random number between 1 and 10. You show the user the rolled scores that you got. So you say your strength is this, your dexterity is that, your logic's the other thing, those 4 numbers that you rolled for the attributes. And then you say which race would you like to be. They select a race. Depending on which race they select, you're going to add 10 points to one of the 4 attributes, depending. And then finally, you're going to have them choose a skill: spellcaster, thief, warrior, or leader. And last but not least, after you've done that, you're going to ask them for a file name because you're going to write their character out to a file, having the name that they specify of the file. Here's an example of what it should look like inside the file. You say that you first state what their race is, and then this is body points, hits, whatever you want to call them. That calculation's right here. You just take the strength, divide by 2, and round up. And so then you present that, and then you present the 4 attributes, and then finally their selected skill along with their ability to perform that skill, which again depends on which one they chose. So if they're spellcaster, you take their logic divided by 2 and round up. That's where the 39% came from. So not too difficult, I hope. No big design that we're going through. I'm allowing a lot of freedom for that, but let me look at the rubric and see what that is going to be concerned with. Let me zoom in. It compiles, it runs. You do ask for the name of the output file from the user, and that is the file that you write out to. The perennial problem that happens is something like this. Perennial problem. Perennial. Is there only one R in perennial? String, file name, cout, write to what file? Question mark. Let me move. Get line, maybe. Cin, fname. Everything's good up to this point, and then here's the big flub. You ask the user for the file name, and then you basically thumb your nose, tell them to go to hell because you're calling the file data.txt. Right? I see this over and over and over again. All you got to do is come in here, oops, and write fname. Okay? So there are two ends. I knew that I screwed up somewhere. Move, perennial. There we go. All right, where was I? There we go. File name. Error checking to ensure the file was opened successfully. So don't forget to check for errors. Something a little more useful than that. And then here, if this is in main, you can do a return 1, or you can do an exit 1. Basically, you don't want to continue. Well, I guess this would be at the end of the program. You know, I get thinking about this out loud. Well, yeah. But yeah, don't forget to do some error checking. That's what that is. The character sheet is successfully written to the file. Output is correctly formatted in the file. The file is closed after it's written. .f.close, don't forget that. Attributes are correctly computed, so you've got the arithmetic correct. You are generating 5 numbers between 1 and 10 and adding 30. You're not generating one number and multiplying by 5 and adding 30, that kind of thing. User's selection of race and skill is validated by the program. So, say cout, 1 dwarf, 2 elf, etc. Cin choice. If number 1 through 4 is not entered, complain and ask the user again. All right, so that's the user selection of race and skill is validated by the program. So I'm asking for more validation in this project. What is the best way for me to deal with that? What would I mean, obviously I have to add code for this, but what about the ask user again? How do I end up implementing that? A loop, what kind of loop do you think would be good? The do while. Actually, I agree. The do while is probably the best choice. Why would I think that a do while is a better choice than a while loop? Yeah.
Do while would always run the code.
That's exactly right. The one difference between the do while and the while loop is the do while loop is guaranteed to run at least once 100% of the time, because the check as to whether to loop again occurs at the bottom of the loop, not at the top of the loop. So this is a great example of where a do while loop is the most appropriate. Yep, good. You're doing the arithmetic to add to the attribute depending on race. The skill probability correctly calculated. And that's it. So that's all you have to do for that. What about the whole roundup business? Where this project is, as with most of them I suppose, is dealing with integers. So we know that 10 divided by 2 should be 5, but 9 divided by 2 is also 5. Huh?
You're asking for when it rounds up.
Yeah, how do you round up? Because that's what it should be. What I wrote is what it should be, but as you identified, it will be 4. So how are you gonna deal with that error, that potential error? That's exactly right. I'm surprised you came right out of the blocks with that. That's great. So yeah, you just do I plus 1 divided by 2. So if the number is 9, it turns into 10, and that ends up being 5. If the number is 10 and you add 1, 11 divided by 2 is still 5. So just adding 1 to the number and dividing by 2 is the exact correct way to make sure you're rounding up when you're dividing by integers. Dividing by 2, dividing integers by 2. Good, excellent. I think that's it. You got any questions? That was easy. Then I think the next thing I want to tell you, if there aren't any questions, is that you should enjoy the rest of your Friday. I think I'm done.